Your mortgage payment is not your total housing expense. We're going to take a look at all the numbers. I'm Tammy Goolsby with Coldwell Banker, and I've been in real estate for over 23 years. I've done $300 million in real estate, and I'm a top 1% producer in the nation. When someone tells me their housing payment, they're usually looking at the mortgage, the cost of their mortgage, but they're leaving out their water bill, their electric bill. It's got a lot to do with the size of your landscaping, the size of your home, the year of your home, and the efficiency of the products within your home. And then we've got the cost of repairs. Today I want to take a look at all the numbers that are usually overlooked. So property tax notices landed this month, and a lot of you are going to be surprised when you take a look at them because Utah County has done some adjustments. And because we're a non-disclosure state, we've been super fortunate that all of our sales prices have not been disclosed to the county. However, the county assessor has gone out, reassessed the homes throughout the county, and we have till September 15th to dispute those values. So what that means when the new tax assessment comes out, if your home is assessed as $50,000 higher than what you were previously paying taxes at, and you think that value is incorrect, you can contest that value at the county. September 15th is the date you want to be on the lookout for. You've got to get it done before then. Often a buyer has a difficulty deciding whether having a homeowners association is a good deal or if it's something they don't want to get into. So let's look at the good deal aspect of it. HOAs usually drive around and check and make sure your yards are taken care of, your homes are painted an appropriate color, and somebody's not putting a third or fourth story on their home that's going to be an absolute eyesore for the community. So those are some of the strong points of a homeowners association. And then let's talk about the downfalls of homeowners association. Oftentimes you feel like you've lost control. And the reason you feel like you've lost control is because that homeowners association cost keeps going up and up and up. And it just makes you feel like I don't have control over my finances because I have a third party jumping in and increasing my cost every year. So let's look at some examples of how that might affect our buyers and sellers. There's a condo that's not too far from the BYU Stadium, and after showing multiple condos, they chose the one that had the highest homeowners association fees. And at the time, it just outweighed everything they were looking at. It was by far better condition, and they were willing to pay that fee. But that fee has increased to the point in about 5 years, it's almost double. So let's give you some real numbers here. If we started at $150 a month, after 5 years, we're at $300 a month. What have they done? Well, I haven't noticed that the landscaping is much better. In fact, they tore the landscaping out and made it lower maintenance. So we would think, well, maybe that helps with the water bill and we can reduce some cost, but we drive by and they're watering the rocks. And so there can be discouraging watching your dollars be spent for things that seem frivolous to you. I'm not seeing the condos haven't been painted, stair rails haven't been maintained the way the owners would like. But one of the increases they have seen is they have the homeowners association took over the internet for the entire condo association. So that's $100 a month savings. So when we look at it, we may have increased over 5 years $150, but we're also saving $100. So over 5 years, we've actually increased $50. So of course, you don't have the option of opting out of the internet. You still have to pay the $300. But we need to look at all sides of the equation and make sure the benefits are right for you and your family and what your needs are. There's a charge in Lehigh and other communities that buyers and sellers are seeing, and they're called PID and SID assessments. They're more commonly known as Melrose assessments. So they show up on our tax bills and they increase the amount of taxes we're paying. And what are those used for? They're the utility districts, they are the park and rec districts, they're your libraries, your street infrastructure, and high quality schools. And so we are going to see those. It's important to have a realtor that's nailed in and knows exactly what to ask for on that tax bill so you don't get any surprises. Okay, homeowners insurance is another important factor to remember. First of all, in my personal opinion, everybody should have homeowners insurance, even if your home is paid off. Now, you may choose to self-insure, and if you've got that ability to do that, great for you. But we're not seeing a whole lot of the percentage of our county have that ability. Most people have a mortgage, and when you have a mortgage, insurance is mandatory. We got to protect you and the insurer. So when insurance is mandatory, then we need to really hone in on our numbers and make sure we factor that into our payment expectations. And different areas cost more to insure. It depends on the fire rate, it depends on safety issues, theft, and water accessibility, including the probability of flooding. So those are all things that insurance companies factor in, and we want to make sure we take a good look at the insurance expense and then make sure that your realtor has contacts with people that are great in the community and have the best insurance rates. So if you want to buy further south or further west in Utah County, you can absolutely save money on the purchase price. And it can be a great option, but we need to weigh out the other expense, right? We're going to have a daily commute expense if we're not a remote worker. And so you got to figure that in. And it's super important to, if I'm driving up I-15, what's it going to cost me on time? I've got unpredictable traffic patterns, and I've got to schedule all of that in, including my stress level. And then there's also the quality of life. Like, I moved to Utah to be closer to family. So if I'm too far west, I've got to drive all the way around Utah Lake. How often am I really going to see my family? Am I better off to stay where I was at and make those yearly visits and stay for 2 weeks and have undivided attention? Or will I actually drive all the way around the lake and make it a point to check in and see my family? Okay, so it's stated that Utah has more childcare deserts than anywhere else in the country. What does that mean? Basically, that means childcare is hard to find. And a lot of moms choose to stay home with their children. So how does that affect us? We don't have two-income families. But I do have to say, I have had clients that have been super creative, get out there and hustle, and stay home with their family and find a little side way to make income. So that helps, but is it going to pay as much as sitting in a corporation somewhere and putting the children in daycare? That's something every family needs to weigh out. But the major pros and cons here is that we're seeing a lot of single income families. And that absolutely makes a difference. Okay, that affects where people buy, because people are choosing to buy smaller homes further away from families that are available to help and assist them. Utah County is full of relatives and a mesh of family members all together. I think that's a beautiful part of Utah. People choose to be here to be close to their family. And yet, because of the single family income, you might have to purchase a little further away from that family that you moved here intentionally to see. So there's 6 key expenses that we see in the real estate industry when purchasing a home. So when you're buying a home, it's not just, oh crud, I'm gonna have to pay for my own light bulbs, or if my door handle breaks, I'm gonna have to repair it and I gotta mow my own lawn. So there's a little more to it than that. So the first expense everybody's very aware of is the mortgage expense. And the second one is gonna be insurance, taxes, utilities, repairs, and then there's the lifestyle expense that a lot of people don't think about. So I wanna live in Lehigh. I work right there in Lehigh. It'd be super close, but ooh, I look at all those P&SID and SID and basically our Melrose expenses, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to choose to head on down to Payson and have a commute in every day. What's the cost of my expense? The money for gas, the wear and tear on my vehicle, and lifestyle. Do I want to be down in Payson? It's beautiful. It's full of agriculture. It's lots of activities for my kids rural-wise. But I'm not near my favorite fast food restaurants. I don't have access to my favorite restaurants. Thanksgiving Point's is not right down the road. And I've got time in that I'm losing from my family every day while I'm behind the wheel of the vehicle. Okay, so in Utah County, if you got a home that's priced at $520,000, we want to talk about some of the numbers and expenses there. So principal and interest is going to run you about $2,600 a month. And then you're going to have taxes of about $300. Your insurance is going to be about $150. HOA, anywhere from $0 to $200. It's important to keep in mind. Maintenance, I would say around $100 a month. If you put aside about $100 a month, you should be in good shape. Some people would estimate higher than that. And utilities, our county average is probably right around $300 a month. And so what you're going to see, your overall monthly actual payment cost for a $520,000 home is going to be somewhere between $3,800 a month and $4,100. A buyer gets $10,000 back at closing. Let's discuss the options that we have with that and what actually happens with that money over the life of the loan. So, of course, we can always take cash out, given that the type of loan product that we have allows that, take cash out to do repairs, to upgrade the house in some way. Maybe I move in and I want my carpet replaced right away. Well, in that situation, the $10,000 is gone and it's used. It was put in your pocket. You made your choices of what you wanted to do with it. If I take the $10,000 and I put it towards my principal, well, over the life of the loan, I'm going to save probably $50,000 to $75,000 over the life of the loan by putting that right back in towards my down payment so that my loan is a smaller loan amount. Or I can utilize that $10,000 to buy the rate down and then lower my payment drastically throughout the entire 30 years that I have the loan. Or in most situations in today's day and age, since rates are higher than what we would desire to have them, we're going to see that rate bought down. And yes, it's going to save you money over time, but probably not over 30 years because we're going to refinance. The other option would be to just reduce the price of the home. So our $520,000 home that we were referring to, let's say we only pay $510,000 for it. By reducing the price of the home, you're probably only reducing your payment by, $10, $15 a month. But if we reduce the interest payment, there's a likelihood that we're going to reduce the payment by $700 or $800 a month. So if I had my personal decision what I want to do with the money, and everybody's different and has their own choices, and I understand that it depends on your goals. If your goal is to just pay off the home faster, then reduce the price of the home. But if your goal is to pay for that home over the 30 years or the 5 years that you're going to have that particular loan, take the interest rate deduction. It's going to save you, it's going to net more money in your pocket over time. So between concessions and Utah being a non-disclosure state, a price you see online is almost like a wish list or a make me move. It's just not reality. So you need to have contact with somebody who is a key player in the real estate industry, really understands how to read the MLS and understands the market, so they can give you an actual value for what your neighbor's home might have sold for or what your home can reasonably go on the market for. When we're just taking a guess and stabbing at the wall because our neighbor asked for this price, it's completely different than reality and what they actually sold for. If someone wanted to go in and look at the home they're living in and then compare it to the home down the street that they saw online, what are we going to look at? What are our parameters that we're going to look at? The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to dive deep and I'm going to find out what the home actually sold for and if there were any seller concessions. And as a licensed realtor, I pay into the industry so that I can get all of that information for you. So that's the first thing we're going to look at. And then how are we going to compare it? Well, how does your home compare? We're going to look at square footage. How does it compare to the home down the street that sold? Was your home updated? Was the home down the street updated? And do we need to add value or detract value because of that? What's the overall condition of your home? Have you been keeping it clean? Have you been doing minor repairs and keeping up the things that you need to make sure we get the maximum out of the overall lifetime of the home? And then where is your square footage? Is it above ground? Is it underground? Super important. Where was the square footage on that home? Was it above ground? Was it underground? What percentages were each? All things we need to consider. And then of course your landscaping, the quality. If we've got a pool, well, that's a whole nother can of worms we've opened up, and it might not even be comparable to your home. And if your landscaping's tricked out, we absolutely want to add the value for that because great curb appeal makes better sellability. Okay, so there's a lot of the cost of living in Utah County that the homeowner cannot control, but there are things within our ability to control. And number one, believe it or not, it's our mortgage payment. When we go into the transaction, are we making every effort we can to get the interest rate bought down, whether we buy it down ourselves? It might be even worth it to take from some funds that you put elsewhere, liquidate those to keep your mortgage payment down. Are we putting as much as we can down on the home, or do we choose to hold some out to do some remodeling? Sometimes it's worth it to delay those things that you desire to remodel until after interest rates come down and you refinance so that you can control your mortgage payment and that's set. You can absolutely control your electric bill to some extent. You can be frugal, make good choices. I had some young college students that were going without heat this last summer because they didn't want to pay, or excuse me, I had some young college students going without heat this last winter because they didn't want to pay that electric bill. And that is absolutely to some extent controllable. And then what else can you do? You can keep an eye on that water bill. And the great thing about Utah County is we have options in our waste management. We don't have to have the recycling bin. It's not mandatory. We don't have to pay for it. So those are just some things we can do with our utilities to really help with our expenses. And then one of the things that brings the most value to the home beyond upgrades, it's cleanliness. If you clean your home and take really good care of it, you're having to do repairs less often, and that will help control what goes out of your budget. There are times, reality is, that I've run all the numbers on their home, what they're looking for, and they're just better off staying in their home. And so there's a couple of options we can do. We can try to explore the upgrades that we could do to their current home to make it suit them and their family better. But regardless, oftentimes I just tell them the best thing we're going to do is keep you in your home, but we're going to evaluate your income, your expenses, and what's out there in the market, and make a game plan and a timeline for when we can make this reality, when you can actually move.